righty. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
Doing well, man.
Yeah, no
We're
complaints.
ready to get going.
Good
Yeah.
deal. Well, you know what? It is the holiday week, and I don't want to be random. I don't want to have random hats, random lights, random shoes. I just say hello, wind grace, and why don't we just get started? And with that, gentlemen, here we go again. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and I want to start this week by welcoming back Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
Doing okay, man. Ready to eat some turkey and dressing, I guess. But glad to be here on this week, and as always, talk with you guys. So a lot of fun, man.
Indeed,
Ahead.
indeed. And it would not be Discussing Who without Lee Shackelford. Lee Shackelford, how are you?
I'm very well indeed, and very glad to be sitting down to talk about Torchwood random shoes with you guys.
Indeed. But before we do that, as of this recording, we are just days away, believe it or not, and time flies literally from Doctor Who Day, or also known as the 23rd of November. 61 years. Happy anniversary. Happy birthday. Um, and I believe Reinhardt is saying YouTube is wrong. What you're referring to is Kyle didn't know how to read label something. So if you're on YouTube, it may still be showing up incorrect. So,
Oh,
but Doctor Who Day, 61 years. My question I want to ask first, can you believe it's already been a year since we've had the introduction to 15th Doctor?
it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed.
Hmm.
Indeed. So, question, guys. There was some news that came out from the 60th anniversary, and that news, or excuse me, the 61st, excuse me again, the
Right,
61st
right.
anniversary, and that was the war games will be colorized. Have you heard anything else about what might be at the end? And Lee, you're shaking your head, yay or nay?
Oh, I was agreeing too early because I'd heard some things about the release, but not anything about the ending.
All right.
But for people who don't know, that was the end of the Second Doctor's time, and he is forced to. They don't call it regenerate, but he is forced to take on
Change.
another face.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's time to change your face. So,
yeah.
what do you guys think of this concept of recoloring or colorizing, not recoloring, colorizing and trimming them down to a feature length story? And Clarence, I'll send that to you first. What do you think about this concept? Agree? Disagree? Thoughts?
I mean, I totally agree with it. I think, in a sense, it's no different from them taking the original series of Star Trek and making it all HD and adding special effects to some chagrin. But it's good to see it get a little special treatment, a little facelift. Um, Maybe the fact that it's abridged or changed in format a little bit might rub some people the wrong way, but I think we all could be glad that it's getting colorized, unless you're truly a purist and says only black and white for me. I don't know. Maybe some people are like that.
All right, Lee, thoughts?
Well, sometimes in the film world, colorization is controversial, but I think most people agree that if the intent of the filmmakers was to shoot something in black and white, then that's how it should be. And in this case, they shot it in black and white because it's cheap for cheap on this period of Doctor Who. So adding color to it is, nothing that I think the original filmmakers wouldn't have loved. And now that it's possible to add that on uh, post the event, that's remarkable. And the thing that intrigues me most, because I have to admit, I haven't seen the re-release of Daleks, which was colorized what last
Last
year?
year, yeah.
Yeah, and I just knew that it was Daleks in color, but also that it's 80 minutes long. That they cut it so that the pacing is more like what one would expect from contemporary television. And the War Games is 10 episodes long.
Ooh,
And when I think about it, one of the things I think about it is that at the end of some episodes, they've escaped from one enemy camp and they get caught. And then they get away, and at the end of that episode, they get caught.
Caught.
And then, and then they go, it just seems like that keeps happening over and over and over again. But there's so much else that's really interesting in war games. You just kind of want to say, boy, I wish we could just get to the point here. And boy, if they've cut these 10 episodes down to the length of a feature film, there's some major hacks that have gone on that, and that may not be a bad thing.
Well, the first thing that I think of when I think of the classic era, I'm talking about first and second Doctor. I can remember there were scenes, a lot of corridor scenes. There were a lot of walking in the forest or walking in the wilderness.
Battlefield,
And,
yeah.
if you think of it from that perspective and we take out things like that, I know from editing audio that you start with 55 minutes and you take out pauses and you take out, things that you don't need, and you wind up with 48 minutes or, what. So I see how it's possible. I think, from my perspective, if they were to say on BBC iPlayer, on BritBox in the US, whatever, wherever you get your Doctor Who, this is it going forward, then I would have a problem with it. But if
Right.
the purists want to see the black and white as it was
Yeah.
originally broadcast, fine. If someone who is new to Doctor Who that may be kind of skeptical of sitting down for a 10 episode run for one single story, maybe a 90-minute retelling is a good thing.
Yeah. And the BBC has been very clear about this, is that we are not making the original war games go away. It will
Right.
always be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
So
I
let me
love that.
talk a little bit about the ending. And one of these is more of, I think, a certainty. The other one is a rumor. So just let me be clear in that. So in the certainty, I believe that they are using what they are calling footage that has not been used since the original broadcast and doing something else. But basically at the end, I think the hook is we're supposed to actually see a regeneration with using different footage to actually show.
I think the Artron injury was in the trailer, wasn't it?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
It
So
certainly
that's
suggested,
pretty
yeah.
much a given. The rumor, though, that I'm hearing is, and this was on Blue Sky, I think that I saw this, but the rumor has it is a certain Doctor Who actor has just been all in the news about filming their first series for their incarnation for Big Finish. And this person may have also filmed part of this regeneration scene, meaning Joe Martin might be who 2 regenerates into.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And
we
part
go.
of part of the confusion is that there is already a fan video out there in which Patrick Troughton
Right.
morphs into Joe Martin. So that could be what that's really
Maybe.
the strength of that. But I don't know. I mean, in some ways I don't want to see him turn into John Pertwee either. If that makes sense. I've always liked the fact that war games ended with this ambiguity.
And we assume.
Even we assume, yeah. And then the next time we see him, he's not Patrick Troughton, he's John Pertwee. And he falls out of the TARDIS, So what happened between the two? What's your head canon? You work it out, yeah.
What do you think, Clarence? Would you be
man.
opposed?
I don't know. In my mind, I have that all the Joe Martin stuff happened way in the past before our series of Doctors that we all know and love. So that's kind of where I have it placed, and maybe inserting it here, excuse me, might not be such a big deal, but I'd have to come to grips with that. And honestly, this is a time period that I'm not that intimate with the the second and third Doctor. I haven't even seen the War Games before, so there you have it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't think I'd be mad about it, but hopefully whatever they do, it has like a good flow. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for.
You know, the only thing, and I'm like you, my head canon, whether I like Timeless Child or not, my head canon is, I've come to accept the fact that that incarnation is in the past. But every time I go back and watch her introduction, my brain still aches over the fact that how did she have a TARDIS with a
Yep,
police
that's fair.
box
That's
Hmm.
fair.
Right.
before Hartnell and we've seen on screen Hartnell stealing, the
Yep.
police box and the name of the doctor, and it is Cylinder. So how in the freaking freak did it become a police box beforehand?
And
That's
and when they show up in Dalek, he's perplexed because he says it should have changed. Why didn't it
correct
change?
again.
So, yeah.
So who knows? But what I do know is for everyone listening, if you have not seen Random Shoes, not your shoes, Random Shoes, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out, and we are back to review Random Shoes. This is the ninth episode of the first series of Torchwood, first airing on BBC Three on the 10th of December, 2006. So, summary view. Clarence, I'll start with you. Summary view. What did you think of this episode?
Man, so many thoughts on this one. This episode that's off the beaten path a little bit from what we've seen from Torchwood so far, but I feel like the writing in this episode was so well done that by the end, I'm feeling like the full gamut of emotion. So I very much love this episode. I think the ending of it was beautiful, and a lot of mending of relationships in this episode too. So we'll talk about it, but I pretty much just thought this was one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who or Torchwood.
Mm, interesting. All right. So, Lee Shackelford, what say ye?
Same, same, same. I cried. I can't remember any other Torchwood that I've just cried at the end.
Mm.
They got me. They had me from the beginning and just towed me along, and I was completely wrapped up in this story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm watching it, and I don't remember this. Honestly, I
Mm.
totally don't remember it. And I go away from this thinking, how can I make this as upbeat as possible? Because this is some deep stuff here. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in
Mm.
a in a good way, deep stuff. But deep. And I totally was not expecting that from Torchwood. I wasn't expecting, like you said, Lee, to have your heartstrings pulled at and to be contemplating the meaning of life and
Well,
from Torchwood.
have we not come to expect that from Torchwood, though? I mean, we,
Well,
we, we were talking about that when we watched the pilot together. It's like this show is going to make you think about everything.
true, true.
Right?
So let's talk about Eugene for
Mm.
let me ask you this. This would be something that I would consider not just Doctor Light, even though he did have his hand appeared,
Right.
but this was definitely Torchwood Light.
Mm.
Thoughts on having another almost 95 or plus percent Gwen centric episode? Thoughts?
Well, I'm all for that. It is very Jack light. You're right. The Doctor's almost in it more than Jack is, but because his hand is there. But my understanding is that they were shooting this at the same time as an upcoming episode that's called Captain Jack Harkness, which was very Jack heavy, and Gwen is almost not in that one. So
Okay.
that was their way of handling that shoot, was to come up with this ingenious script that is going to dwell mostly with Gwen, and it wouldn't have worked any other way, I think. So it's great.
All right, Clarence, thoughts?
Give me that question again. I'm sorry.
This is a very Torchwood light, but a very Gwen centric episode, meaning the other characters are pretty much non existent.
Yes. I didn't know about the meta of it that Lee just mentioned. Kind of dual wielding the shoots here, but for me, I loved it. We've seen a lot of these episodes been about Gwen um, throughout this season. 9 episodes in, we've seen a lot of those been about Gwen, but I've loved how this one was about her, but not about her as well.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was just focused on this Eugene character with with him kind of working through her in a weird way. I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but yeah, I thought not having the other characters as much wasn't a problem. I think they chimed in when it was opportune for them to
Hmm.
do so, but having Gwen and Eugene, I wish I knew the real name, have him work together on this episode. I thought was a lot of fun.
All right. So, what did you, and I'll leave this one with you, Clarence, and then go to Lee. What did you think about the pacing and the way that they shot the scenes between the two? Because you basically have this duo but not a duo throughout the story.
Hmm.
Well, hmm, it's almost like that not premonition, that's the wrong word, but like that other sense where they can feel the character in their presence.
Hmm.
And we've seen this happen in many shows before, of where the character is there, but the character can't interact because they're dead or or
Right.
something else is going on. Uh, so I love that we get kind of the in story commentary from her trying to figure out this mystery, and then he's there along to give his thoughts in his head of what's going on, because we find out that he's lost his some of his memory as well in the early parts of the episode. So I
Hmm.
felt like the back and forth, even though it wasn't really back and forth, but the dynamic of those two together, I thought was really well written and paced.
Okay, Lee. What about you?
Oh yeah, I just felt like it's relentless. That every time we turn a corner, there's something else that's either a surprise or is emotionally moving, and a mystery deepening. I love what turns out to be, I think, kind of a red herring about the random shoes. But as soon as we start seeing that, you go, this is going to pay off somehow. I
Hmm.
gotta, you know. So for half of the episode, you're saying, but what about the shoes?
Hmm.
And it does. It pulls you along. It's.
Well, interesting that you just said that because the original title of this episode was Invisible Eugene, and
Hmm.
they changed it 2 weeks prior to air date to Random Shoes. Do
Yeah.
you guys agree that that was a smart thing to do?
Invisible Eugene is clearly a working title. That's a that's a placeholder title if I ever heard one. Yeah. Yeah.
So, my thing with the Eugene and Gwen Pace thing, I loved the fact how he would be walking side by side with her at one point,
Hmm.
and then there would be scenes where they focus on the fact that he is an entity, a ghost, whatever you want to call him,
Hmm.
and he's basically standing right in front of her. I'm thinking of when she's looking out of the window, and it's he's standing looking at her, but she's
Hmm.
right up next to the window, so she's basically standing in him for all intents and purposes.
Hmm.
That I thought was really, really well done. I want to know what you guys think of, and I guess I should ask it like this. Should, okay, I've got to stop looking at the chat because the chat is distracting me. Um, so, what was I about to ask?
We're talking about how Eugene and Gwen interact but don't, and
Okay,
how that's handled
yes.
visually. Yeah.
So back to the alien.
Uh,
What did you guys think of, or when did you discover that there wasn't an alien?
Wait, was there not? Okay, like there
Or
was an
was they?
alien, right?
Maybe I'm wrong.
The
Was there an alien?
the glass eye was an alien artifact, right?
True, true.
So we didn't see an alien per se, but this was like any other trinket that they find in Cardiff that they're trying to analyze and figure out. This was what he had that caused him to live on when his body died. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a point in the story. I mean, Jack recognizes it just by description. He says, "Oh, I know what that is. That's
Yeah.
sixth eye." But I think there's a point in the story where you start wondering, is this a worthless thing that came out of a gumball machine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
I
point.
mean, and that because because the teacher gave it to him as a consolation prize, even though
Yeah.
but he told him it was a mystery. Is that what's been keeping Eugene going? Is the belief that this is something special and it really isn't? And it's not until the last few emotional beats of the show that we realize, yeah, it is. Yeah, it actually is. He was right all along. But it kind of doesn't look like much.
Yeah, I was sold that it was not anything special up until the last few
Really?
months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because even his friends, I'm holding up quotes here,
Yeah.
say that one of the guys that was bidding on it, they tracked it down, and it was just a random Pokemon or Beanie Baby dealer or something that was
Right.
trying to get a hold of it.
So I think, and see, I took the alien completely different. I watched this entire thing expecting there to be an alien that shows up after the eye at the very end. That's what I was expecting. So when I asked the question of there wasn't an alien, that's where I was going, was that there wasn't an alien at the end. Not a twist at the end, but there wasn't an alien.
There's an alien in the end.
at
That was the
end.
twist.
Yes. Speaking of, I've just got to say this. Go out and watch. There were some deleted scenes for the 61st anniversary Doctor Who channel from various 60th anniversary and the Church on Ruby Road and Series 1. So really, really cool. There's a scene in there where, and I know I'm off topic here, but the Doctor's whistle, the dog whistle or what, in the finale, there's a scene where he gives himself that whistle. Timey-wimey kind of hands it down to himself that they cut out. I think they should have left that in. That would have been so cool. But anyway. Anyway, I'm not. See, that's what I was doing. I was looking back. I was looking with the eye. I was looking back.
Yes,
And
yeah.
that's exactly what I was doing. So let me ask a question. Thoughts about this supernatural effect of looking back?
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think?
Did he look back?
Or what did it allow him to do then?
Well, not until he swallowed it, which maybe that's what you're supposed to do. But then he is given a total perspective of his life, which sadly is, I was nothing. I did nothing, and I matter to nobody. But yeah, and I thought that was very interesting that Jack said it. That's what it does. It lets you see things behind you, and not just in the physical, visual sense, but to see your past and to have a different perspective. And maybe that's not what Jack meant, but that's what it ends up being in the episode. And I thought, well, that is very interesting. Perspective. Mm-hmm.
So, what do you guys think of this, going down memory lane? And, I keep hearing people say, that have close death experiences and say, my life flashed in front of my eyes, sort of like this walk down memory lane.
Yeah.
Did he not? I mean, I don't like that idea that his life was meaningless, because then that just says every life is, who's to say what is meaningful?
That's right. Yeah, it ends up just sort of being his opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Not saying it was right or wrong.
Right.
But I guess I'm just being a little Pollyanna here, hoping that when you do have that moment that you think, wow, I really did make an impact on A, or wow, I did have an impact on B, as opposed to I really didn't make a difference on A or B.
Well, I don't. It seemed to me like they were trying to. They were definitely attempting to infer that his life was meaningless to a certain extent, but his death is what brought things together for him. It brought his
Ooh.
father back to the family.
Hmm.
It allowed him to save Gwen, which I know if he'd never done that, maybe Gwen wouldn't have been in that situation. But he
Right.
did save a
Well,
life. He did his thing. He saved a life in this episode too.
of somebody he adored.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, he got
Yeah.
to be a part of Torchwood in
Yeah.
this episode. So it's funny thing is in his death, he kind of got to do everything he wanted. All his confirmations of all of his ideas that aliens exist and all of these things going on. In his death, his short time in death, well, short time before the permanent
Just
death,
longer. Yeah.
he got to experience everything he wanted to and more when he was alive,
You got to
which is
spend the night with Gwen.
yeah. Oof.
You said that very eloquently
Well, I
and very
just
beautifully
want to
said,
get
by the
down on
way.
my microphone to say that. It's yeah. I was just winding up to ask both of you, is that a happy ending?
Mm.
It's a beautiful ending.
Hmm.
Um, I think we still have to feel sad for him in a way of after all of this, he died from walking out into the street.
Right.
Um, so I think it's beautiful in a sense he got to save Gwen's life.
Hmm.
We get to see the mending of the relationship with his father to his
Hmm.
brother and mother, which um, and also the he got a little relief from the weight he carried, and even his brother put on him, I guess, because oh, dad left because of you.
Hmm.
And imagine growing up and thinking that your entire
Hmm.
life,
Hmm.
and he finds out no, they've just were really having problems, and
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I think a lot of his wounds were mended in this episode. But yeah, I
Mm.
don't know where I was going with that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I, I mean, and maybe the biggest thing of all, he's right. He's right about the eye.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
Mm.
he's
He
he's
is.
believed in this crazy thing all this time, and he was right. I,
Mm.
I don't know.
You know, I couldn't help but feel a little bit of parallel with Amy because he's got this belief that nobody believes the eye is
Mm,
real.
mm,
And, you know, until a certain point, no one believed that the Raggedy Doctor was
hmm.
real. I mean, she
Yeah.
went to three psychiatrists,
Right.
you know, about the Raggedy Doctor. And I love the parallel there. I
Hmm.
thought that was really cool. I really liked, and the thing that got me was with the randomness of how he died, and we see how he dies at the end. It wasn't from swallowing that. He didn't, you know, choke from that. It was you walked out in front of a car because you had something else on your mind and got hit.
Yeah.
That's what killed you,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't want to say that's the beauty of this episode. I think this is the smart writing of this episode to have all of these things going at him, from Torchwood to maybe there's an alien to your friend's betrayal to all of that. And at the end, it's something freaking random
Yeah.
that happens to him. But let's go
Mhm.
back to the friends. And Lee, I'll start with you. The two friends, and I'll put air quotes
Yeah.
around friends, thoughts.
Well, Gary was certainly the better friend,
True.
uh, no question. And I, that's the other thing. Eugene got to live long enough to hear Gary say, "I miss him,"
Yeah.
and to stand up for him, to really defend him. Yeah, neither of them make the best choices about all this. If they really think this is going to cheer Eugene up, then they don't know him, or I don't know, or human behavior at all. It's just cruel. And so that hurts. But yeah, the fact that I think this is off topic, but I love that the one thing that Eugene feels should happen is that somebody should call Gary if they want to understand what's going on better. And this beautiful moment where he's sitting next to Gwen and she has his phone and she's got her thumb over numbers in his directory, and Eugene says, "Call Gary, phone Gary," and she pushes the Gary button, which could be coincidence. It's just beautifully the way they set that up. I think she heard him
Yeah, yeah.
or
Well,
felt it. Yeah.
that's one of my questions in the episode. I can come back to the friend question, but um, does Gwen, because of the events of what happened in the last episode,
Hmm.
does she have some otherworldly connection to the undead? Or was it the eye that was allowing her to? What I feel like, sense what Eugene was thinking or saying, and then definitely by the end, the connection was so strong that she pulled him through somehow, or he came through somehow.
Hmm.
I'm wondering, was the events of the last episode, did it kind of um, strengthen that connection?
That is really good. I did not
I like that.
even
Hmm.
think that. And as Lee Shackelford once said, give me a good reason for something and I'll go for it. And I
Yeah.
really, really like that connection. I saw this more so as that was him, and since he had an emotional attachment to her, that she did hear him, whether it was a feeling that you have or whether it was a hearing, audible hearing.
Hmm.
But the longer he was around her, the stronger his power, quote unquote, became.
Hmm.
Hence, being able to push through back to reality for a moment to save her.
Hmm.
Man,
You
what
know,
a try! Well, I don't. I'll save it before I get to that moment. But let me address the friends real quick. Yeah, you have the one good friend and the one jerk. I just know when we went in the video store, I know that guy was just terrible, terrible, terrible guy. So, um, and then the whole title sake of the episode, the random shoes, that was a connection that we eventually got. The waitress in the diner and their shoes is kind of how we brought that full circle. But man, like you said, Lee, to do that to somebody that's supposed to be your friend with a bidding war, that's just cruel, man. And by all accounts in this episode, we are, and I think even Owen says it, that we're made to believe this guy's just a nerd, and you
Hmm.
know, probably everything typical you would think of a nerd that's not very popular. That's I think he kind of embodied that in a sense. So yeah, his friends were just terrible, terrible people, man.
Yeah, all of us nerds in the audience have got to empathize with him and transport to that character.
Yeah, for
I was like,
sure, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
well,
watched this saying, yeah, that would have been me. That's what I would have done. Yeah.
Mm.
well, when we're calling out nerds, I don't think those other two characters, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, or however whatever word it goes, they didn't look like, posh, or they didn't look jocks or
No.
whatnot. They were as nerdy and geeky looking as he did. And in actuality, they looked more, quote, if you want to
Yeah.
be stereotypical nerdy geeky, they look more nerdy geeky than he did,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But the thing that got me, that I just wanted to kick him in the face for, was this dude had $15,000.
Yeah.
Then you, just to be an asshole, you bid at $5, 15,000
Yeah.
pounds and
£5.50.
five,
Yeah.
over, and
Right.
then have the nerve to say, "Well, I've got 34 pounds on me.
Yeah.
Now let me fight you for it because you
Right.
want to go sell it yourself."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asshole.
They want to
That is the worst.
it's gonna rough him up and take it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the plan.
Should have just done that in the first place.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that.
And that's why I don't have powers.
Yep. That's right.
Because the first thing I would have done was found some kind of orb that would have been like disintegrate.
Yep.
Anyway,
Leaving no trace.
indeed, indeed. So let's go. Speaking of no trace, we've made several comments in previous episodes of Torchwood about the ending of life, and there's nothing but death, and there's nothing after. This kind of, in a way, turns that on its ear, but not. Maybe.
Well, I thought that was very interesting too. He gets taken up
Yep.
like Jesus.
Yep.
Where's he going? But it's, as Clarence said, I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? I just feel like this is a good thing that's happening to him.
And I think we even got the comment somewhere in the episode of Eugene saying, "Am I in hell?" I think he says that at some point, or that comes up at some point.
Well, one of my favorite lines of this actually, when he finds himself in Torchwood, which is everything that he's ever dreamed about all in one place,
Yeah.
he says, "I am in heaven." And then he thinks about it and he says, "Am I?"
Am I?
Because it was just a figure of speech. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. This really would be heaven to me.
So let me ask you guys a question. Thinking back on previous episodes of Torchwood, is anyone that we have seen or any of the characters who have come back and says this about it being nothing, were they morally good characters or were they morally bankrupt characters? All of them. I
Not for
can't
me to
think.
judge.
I know Susie was morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with that is, and I think we'd have to go back and watch it to answer my question, but my thought was maybe the ones that we've seen that have said that there's nothing are the ones that had bad things about them and they basically went to hell,
Yeah.
and he was good, so he was going into the white light or whatnot.
Right. No, there's a whole theology about this in some Christian belief, what they call the theology of extinction. That if you can't accept that a loving God would punish people forever without relief for things they did in their mortal life, then maybe what happens is you just go away. But there is a reward, because the New Testament speaks much more about that, about the reward for people who do well and believe. So maybe that's the Torchwood perspective by your argument, is that it's a theology of extinction. That these people, they don't see anything on the other side because that's all they're going to get.
That's all they're going to get because of whatever.
And I think also in the context of the show, you could say, okay, maybe the resurrection gauntlet didn't, the way it brought them back didn't allow them to recall. Or you can even say in this case with the eye may have been taking him to some other place that we don't know about,
That's true.
That is true too. Very true.
Eugene's going to Valhalla.
Valhalla 9-45C.
Exactly.
On Third Rock from the Sun.
That's right.
Who knows?
You may need to bulk up, Eugene. Good.
What do you guys think of this idea? And I'm about finished with my list here. But what do you guys think of the use of Gwen repeatedly? Why not Ianto in this episode? Why not Owen? Why not Tosh?
But Gwen is the most empathetic character in Torchwood, easily. Could you have done this with a different character? I think it would have been a hard sell for me.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. This works because it's Gwen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I could have believed it with Ianto or Tosh. Owen or Jack, no. The way they're being presented, especially Owen, he would have been like, okay, so what? Go on, something else.
Right. But so far, empathy has been Gwen's superpower.
Yep.
So my superpower tonight is asking the two of you any other items on your list that we haven't covered.
I, I think I like the way that Gwen played detective in this
Hmm.
episode, and they were ready to pretty much lay down the case, and she takes it upon herself to keep investigating further. And again, just a great adventure for Eugene to go on a Torchwood mission with his favorite Torchwooder,
Yeah.
Torchwood character.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I love how she never stopped. She followed all the clues along to get to the resolution that we get in this episode, and with the Eugene there to help her along. So I love that in this episode, and also I think I loved how I'm not gonna say love. I thought it was interesting how we kept going back to the maths thing in this episode. We kind of bookend the ended the episode with him giving all these quotes about life and time and
Oh.
stuff and numbers, and I thought that was interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm. All right, Lee, any other items from you?
I've got quite a list here. I'm
Go
trying to
for it.
pull through them and see if any of them are actually worth sharing. Well, I did want to mention because the two of us had talked about this before. I don't know if we can, if there's an image we can share that goes with our. I don't know.
I do
Some
have
some okay. Somewhere in our
episode.
social medias, we need to
Yeah.
share this. They. I didn't notice this until somebody else pointed it out because it goes by so fast you'll miss it. But just before the titles, there's a shot of the ambulance and Eugene's body out there and Torchwood and Eugene just as the sun is going down. So everybody's casting a long shadow except Eugene. And it's a beautiful little effect. And I would think actually pretty easy to achieve, but they went to the effort to do that. And if you blink, you'll miss it. But it's just such a cool idea.
Mm.
One of the songs that gets played here is David Bowie's Starman, which has
Yep.
the lyric, "There's a starman waiting in the sky, and he's told us not to blow it because he knows it's all worthwhile."
Mm.
Mm, mm,
And I don't think that was chosen randomly. I really
good
like
stuff.
that.
Good stuff.
Total trivia, once again, I would not have known this, but I loved that somebody else pointed out Eugene's DVD that Owen is watching rather callously. It's A for Andromeda, which was a
What?
BBC sci-fi series that, like Doctor Who, was shot on videotape and then wiped. Eugene has a DVD, has rented a DVD of the one surviving episode of A for Andromeda.
Mm.
So that's a
Never heard of
little,
this.
it's a little up yours to the BBC, I think. It's like-
Or another nod to Doctor Who in a way.
well, that's what I mean, is that
Yeah.
they're sort of saying, you could be watching one of the few Second Doctor episodes that we have. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. And I feel silly because I've known the song Danny Boy all my life. Why have I never realized before that in the song Danny is dead? I don't. I feel kind of dumb about that. Anyway, but yeah, we got to that ending and I cried. Partly because Eugene gets a heartfelt kiss from Gwen Cooper and I was
Yes.
dying of envy. So that made me cry. But yeah, that this whole almost romantic time that the two spend together is to me one of the things that's the most poignant about this.
Yeah.
So when we talk about favorite scenes, I want to come back to that. But those are my big takeaways.
All right. So let's go to favorite scene.
Yeah.
Clarence Brown. What was your favorite scene?
Oh man, how could it not be that ending where we're at Eugene's freaking funeral? At his funeral, Gwen nearly makes the same mistake he did by walking into traffic, and he just breaks through, saves her in front of everyone that's there attending his funeral.
Right.
And can they see me? Just a great freaking moment. And like Lee said, I mean that was a very emotionally filled moment that got me because I did not expect it, and it just kind of hit me. So, yeah, just that has to be my favorite, one of my favorite moments in Torchwood so far, I believe.
All
Mm,
right. Lee, what
yeah.
say you?
this genius moment, the way this is staged and lit and photographed and everything and acted. That actor's name is Paul Checker, by the way. And I just think he's terrific. And I'm not familiar with him in anything else. But this moment where he and Gwen are close enough to kiss, but she doesn't know he's there.
Yeah.
Or does she? That's so tantalizing. I was just floored by that image. It's just a knockout. So that's my favorite scene. And, it's 2 seconds long, but wow.
But it is an example of honestly, every scene that they were in, because I'm telling you, it went from watching it feeling like, oh, as a viewer, they're walking beside each other, to knowing that, no, he's not really there, to wondering, yes, so everything, I 100% agree. I'm going to go back to Clarence for my favorite scene. That ending was just, for him to feel so despondent and like his life meant nothing, and then have that moment where I think his family sees him. I think he's visible to everyone, and that it was almost like that's the moment that gives him closure, and that was the moment that he finally goes. He whether it's the orb, the eye thing that did it, whether it was him with his willpower or what, I think that was so beautiful that was the moment that he went and disappeared and ascended, or however we want to call it. So that's my favorite scene. Favorite quote, Lee Shackelford.
I am in heaven. Am I?
Well, you're discussing who? Of course you are.
Runner up. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it because he knows it's all worthwhile.
Favorite quote, Clarence.
Okay, mine is going to be a little long, so bear with me. This is Eugene's last little monologue saying, The average life is full of near misses and absolute hits, of great love and small disasters. It's made up of banana milkshakes, loft isolation, and random shoes. It's dead ordinary and truly, truly amazing. What you've got to realize is it's all here now. So breathe deep and swallow it whole, because take it from me, life just whizzes by, and then all of a sudden, that's it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to top that. And
Yes.
so profound.
So I'm going to not be able to top that, but it was equally, in a way, beautiful in itself. Life is full of meetings and partings. The trick is to try to enjoy the bit in between. That I really, really, really loved.
So true.
All right, so final rating. Clarence, final rating.
I'm going to give this 5 banana milkshakes out of 5.
5 banana milkshakes out of 5. Lee Shackelford.
Same. I'm giving it 5 eBay auctions out of 5.
I'm going to give it 5 dragon eyes in the back of its head out of 5. Yes, I'm not looking back. I'm going forward, but 5 out of 5. So, Lee, you have a habit, a want to tell people. And what
a
do you
burning
like
desire.
people? Yes. What is it?
To tell people, you got other things you could have been doing, but you've spent this time with us, and we are very grateful because that's why we do it. That's one reason why we do it.
Yeah. The other reason is we just like talking to each other.
Exactly.
There you go.
We like to talk.
Yeah.
And Clarence, if they would like to connect, how could they do it?
First, let me say you can support the show by subscribing, leave a review, and telling a friend. If you have a review idea you want us to know or anything else, you can send that in along to us at discussingwho@gmail.com or at discussingwho on any and all social medias.
Any and all.
Any and all. So
Now on Blue Sky.
And now on Blue Sky, yes.
Yes.
Blue. The skies are blue. We are blue skies left, right, and center. But as of listening, if you're listening to this podcast in the United States or wherever in the world or in the universe you're listening, it will be after Thanksgiving. So we hope that you had a fantastic Thanksgiving wherever you're listening in space and time. And as always, we will be back next time.